Hello, students, and anyone else who may be watching from home. This is Mr. Borges, also known as Zanzolo, and today we're going to be talking about our last part of Space Invaders. I have a new button down here for Space Invaders Part 3. I'm going to go ahead and click the button on that one, and it's going to bring us into Space Invaders Part 3. We're going to continue with Part 3 of Space Invaders. So please continue with Part 3 by adding these new things to your old Part 2 project. We're going to make it so that players can shoot aliens and that aliens can shoot players. Right now, they can't shoot each other. Their shots just move right through each other. We're going to create a variable, then use it to track points that you get from shooting aliens. We're going to create a variable and use it to track lives lost when aliens shoot you. There's another way that you can lose the game if you get shot too many times. Then you're going to create new costumes for splatting aliens and splatting players that we can switch to when they get shot so they don't just disappear. They change to a new costume for a moment. And then we're going to change the backdrop to tell the player that the game is over anytime they lose, which they would lose if they lose all their lives or if the aliens touch the player. Okay, so then you're also going to do these things we always do. Get a better title than Untitled. Yeah, sure. Get some instructions. Okay. Share it. Yeah, we always do that. And submit to Canvas. Everybody already knows. So here's the video that you're watching. Well, that's where when I'm done recording this, the video you're watching is going to be right here. And then I'll also post an example right here that I'm going to create right now. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this is a copy of my Part 2 project. And we're going to, I'm just going to show you right now what's going on with it. And then we're going to talk about Part 3. So here's my project. Whoa, did something weird happen? Did those aliens just go straight down? Did you see that? What are you doing? Not like that. Something was messed up. We're going to figure out what's up with that as we go. So you can see right now, I can shoot. My shot goes right through them. They can shoot, and their shot goes right through me. And there's something really strange going on where they do start out going to the right, and then they immediately take a left turn. So we'll try to sort that out as we go. Okay, so what we need to do then is make it so that we can shoot each other and that we have a separate costume. And so a sort of I've been shot costume that we can switch to for the player and for the alien. And I'm just going to go ahead and make those now, costumes. So we're going to need some sort of a I've been shot costume. Now you could make a separate one for each one of these. Could make, the ladybug have its own different costume, the beetle have its own different costume that was, got blasted apart or its legs flew off or something. I don't really know. But what I'm going to do for this project, I'm just going to make a generic splat costume. And so for my generic splat costume, I'm going to do something just kind of simple, like a comic book POW or something. So I'm going to start out with, I'm holding down Shift just to make a nice big circle here that I can work with. Something like that. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and remove the outside layer for that. And then I think I'm going to do is use a slightly different color. Use a slightly different color that I'm going to be able to pick out later that does have a slight barrier, I think. And then I'm just going to make some circles that something like this. So control this and paste it in. And something like this. Something like that. I'm focusing on the shape that's on the inside, and I'm just messing around right now. You can create your own thing. I just want to show you, one thing that you could do to make sort of a unusual splatted alien shape. So my splatted alien shape is going to be just that red part that's sort of in the middle, and I can maybe even write like a comic word POW or something on there. Just for fun. Now what I'm going to do is right now, so one thing I can do to sort of use these pieces to remove those pieces is go ahead and convert this to Bitmap. All right, so now that I've gone ahead and converted this to Bitmap, what I'm going to be able to use is I'm going to be able to then use, if I convert it back to vector now I should be able to select. No, it doesn't work that way. I don't think we have a magic tool in here either. So I can just use the invisible color and the paint bucket tool to fill in these spaces over here. Something like that. Now I can use my eraser tool to erase some of these extra pieces that I didn't want. Something like this. Anyways, I'm sure yours is going to be way more sophisticated and interesting than mine, but I'm going to go ahead then and convert this back to vector now so that I can just add pow. I don't know, just something silly like they say in the comic books or something. Okay, so that's going to be my splatted alien costume, something like this. And I'm just going to check out the size of it. So I'm looking for something, I think, about this size, right? So quite a bit bigger than what I've got here. And so I'm going to go ahead and just make it quite a bit bigger. Something like this. Pow. Which is just silly. Yours is going to be way better than mine. Or find a picture off of the internet. Or spend some more time to draw your own thing exactly the way that you want it to be. I'm going to use this right here. And then I'm going to use this costume also in my player. So I'm going to drag this costume. You can put it in your backpack and get it out later, but I'm going to drag it into my player sprite also. And I'm just going to name it. I'm going to rename this costume as Pow. And I'm just going to, while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and go to the player and rename this costume as Pow there also. So I don't lose track of what I'm doing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have let's go ahead and start with the player. The player is already doing some stuff, right? We have a forever loop already going, and they're already checking if player's pushing a left arrow and pushing a right arrow. So what we're going to add to this now is another check. We need to now check if player needs to know if it's ever been touched by alien shot. If touching alien shot. If touching alien shot. What we're going to do if it's touching alien shot, we're going to switch its costume. Switch costume to Pow, but then it's going to stay Pow forever. So now part of what we need to do here is always be resetting our costume, right? So, but what we can do is we can say switch alien shot to Pow, leave it that way for a moment. Leave it that way for a moment, and then we can switch back as you get your next life. And if you wanted to switch back to a rocket ship, and if you wanted to, I think in the original Space Invaders, when you first come back, it blinks. Like you blink on and off for a moment, and you can't shoot during that time. And you could definitely do something like that, right? Switch your costume to POW, wait for a second, switch costume to rocket ship, and then if you wanted to, you could add a short wait along with maybe a hide block, and then another short wait along with a show block, and then maybe blink that a couple of times. Sorry, but make these really short. You don't want to have to like have a 5-second penalty in the middle of the game if you get shot. That's kind of just too long. So something like this. So then we're going to go ahead and show our enemy player and switch back to our starting costume. Our main player, our player. And then what we can do is we can kind of simulate what that would happen by clicking on this. So if I click on it, it goes POW. The POW is way too small for the rocket. So what I'm going to do is make it for the rocket, make this POW quite a bit larger. I want it to be somewhere near like that size. It's way too small. So I'm going to just make it a whole bunch bigger. So it's something close to that big. All right, something like that. And now I can simulate this. So if I get shot, I'm looking over here. If I get shot, it would go POW, and then maybe give a couple blinks, and then you could play again. Now, the way that this is set up, since you'll be waiting inside here, if we check this and then put this in here, if we get shot, we'll have to finish these waits before we can check if we're moving again. So what's going to happen is, if we're moving when we get shot, we won't be able to continue moving. Right? So I'm going to try to show you. I'm moving. If I got shot, it automatically stopped moving while it showed POW and while it was blinking. I didn't let go of the button. I never let go of the button. So that part of your penalty is that you can't move when you get shot. You can't move for a moment, but also you shouldn't be able to shoot for a moment. I want to show you that I can still shoot right now. So if I'm moving like this, right, when I was POW'd, I can still shoot. And that's really not, that's not the spirit of getting shot and losing a life, that you can still attack while you're splatted. So what we can do, and I'm just going to show you this. It's one of the items on our checklist, but I'm going to create a variable just to keep track of. It's going to be another Boolean flag. It's a variable to keep track of if you're allowed to shoot or not. So is player dead? So if you're dead, you can't shoot. So what we can do then is, when this process starts, when the player gets shot, we're going to say, is the player dead? Yes. And then after they're done blinking, we're going to say, is the player dead? No. Now we also need to, this is an initial condition now that we need to set. So when the game first starts, is the player dead? No. And that's the idea. Right? So now I can go to the player shot, and we can add, we're already checking if the game is over before we shoot. We can also now check another thing. Is the player dead? If the player is dead, then we also can't shoot. Right? So we're going to say, if player dead equals yes, no shooting is allowed. So in order for all this to happen, player dead has to be equal to no. And so what we can do is we can just, this is all stuff that controls the shot. We can put that inside another if block that's also going to go right there. And all this stuff goes inside it. So one more if block, a nested if block. So now we're checking if the game is not over, and I could have used an and block in one big statement here. I'm just using two if blocks now. If the game is over, and if is the player dead is no, player's not dead, then we can shoot. So right now, I can shoot. But if I get splatted, I'm going to get splatted on purpose here. I'm not getting splatted. And I can't shoot. That whole time I couldn't shoot while I was getting splatted. Nobody splatted me. There we go. I can't move and I can't shoot while I'm getting splatted. And that's a neat thing to add. So feel free to add that to your project if you like. The real game is sort of like that. That piece about not being able to shoot while you're losing a life is not part of the checklist. But this part, getting shot here, this is where you would lose a life. So we're going to add a variable to keep track of lives. Make a variable. I'm just going to call it lives. And we're going to set it at the beginning. I don't know how many lives you're going to have. I'm going to say 3. You might have a different number. For me, that's going to be part of what shows up here the whole time. The player needs to keep track of their lives. This is the player dead stuff. I'm going to hide that. That's not something I want them seeing. Okay. Then if touching an alien shot right away, that is when we are going to set. Sorry, we're not setting that. That's when we lose a life, right? That's when we're going to change lives by -1. Lives by -1. And then before we do all of this other stuff, we're going to just check, okay, right after you lose a life, we're also then going to check if player lives equals 0. if lives equals 0, everything is over right now. We're not doing all the rest of this stuff. If player lives is not equal to 0, then we continue with all this other stuff. And I hope that you see what I did there, right? So if touching an alien shot, then we're going to change lives by -1, and then right away check if lives is 0. If lives is 0, we do game over stuff right here. If lives is not over, then we continue on with the stuff that we did before. Set the player to be dead, right? Change the costume to splat, blink it on and off, change it back. So what do we do if lives is 0? That's when we do a couple of things. First of all, the game is ended. We have a variable for that. So that's when we're also then going to set, is the game over? We're going to set, is the game over to yes. That will stop all of our loops. That'll stop this loop, is the game over. It'll stop our other loops in different places. Then what we're going to do, we already have a variable keeping track of that, if is the game over. So what we can do is we can make a separate, because this is getting kind of long, and we don't need it to be a complicated thing. What we can do is we can make a separate forever loop. We can make a separate forever loop that just checks if game over equals 0. If the game ever equals 0, we can switch the costume. But in fact, actually, we can just add that right to here. Right inside here. If lives equals 0, I don't know why it makes it complicated. If lives equals 0, we can also switch the backdrop. Let's just put it right there. Now, right now, I only have the one backdrop, I think. Just this one. So I'm going to duplicate it and make the game over 1. This is my main. I'm just going to name it main. This is my game over. I'm just going to call it game over. There we go. And I'm going to get some text and change the color and just write the words game over. So now I'm going to be able to change the backdrop. I'm just going to make that really huge so that there's no confusion about what just happened. And that's fine, right? So if lives equals 0, we're going to switch the backdrop to game over and then set is game over to yes. Now we also are going to want to reset our backdrop because now that we have two backdrops, we need to, at the beginning of our project, switch the backdrop to our main backdrop. So now I can switch the main backdrop, and my aliens are still doing that weird dance move. I don't know why they're doing that. And then if I start getting splatted on purpose, come on, splat me. So there's 1 splat, 2 splats, and then 3 splats. You can see my game ended and it was over, right? And I can't, and because my game's over, I can't shoot, I can't move. The aliens aren't moving. Change the backdrop to game over. Click the green flag, make sure everything resets. So that's pretty good. So we have a variable now for lives. What we're going to do now is we're going to do something kind of like that for our alien. So our alien then is also going to be checking if it's touching the player shot, the rocket shot, and if it is, we're going to have the clones check that, and if they are, we're going to add points to a new variable called score. So let's go ahead and add a variable for that. It's called score. That's another thing the player's going to see all the time. We're just going to leave that up there. That's something that needs to get reset at the beginning of our project. We're going to set score to 0. And then somewhere, we already have instructions for our clones right here. We're going to add a new instruction for our clones and have them check if, we're going to have them check if touching the rocket shot. If touching rocket shot. If you are touching rocket shot, then what we're going to do, if you are touching rocket shot, then what we're going to do is we're going to change the score. Change score by some amount. I don't know. Let's give them 100 points. And then we're also going to change the costume. Going to switch costume to POW for a very short time. And then it's going to delete itself. That is when that clone will simply just delete itself and will just be gone. So let's go ahead and try this out. So now I've got aliens up there. I can, whoopsie. Wow, they got me. I can shoot them, and I have super bullets, though, that are going all the way through the aliens. And that's not how that's supposed to work. So, and maybe their shots are falling too fast. You know, it feels like it's kind of impossible to dodge things. So I'm going to go to the shot. This moving by 10, dropping by 10 over and over is probably too fast. I'm going to change that to dropping by 8. See if that makes it more reasonable, like for someone to like respond and get out of the way. Because if you can't even get out of the way, it's not going to be any fun at all. Okay, so that seems like it's kind of working, except I have super shot, right? That's destroying all the aliens, and that's not supposed to happen. So we go back to alien shot, and what we want to do is we want to tell the alien shot if it's ever. I'm thinking out loud. I'm concerned that I'm kind of creating a race condition here, and so we'll see if this causes a problem. I think it might. We're gonna check because now I'm gonna have the alien check if it's touching the shot, and the shot checking if it's touching the alien. And I think that can sometimes cause weird problems. But let's go ahead and just try it out. We're gonna tell the shot check if you're touching an alien. If you are touching an alien, then we want that shot to delete itself. So if you are touching an alien, we're telling that, sorry, this is the rocket shot. This is the alien shot. This is right here, alien shot. We need to write code for the rocket shot. If the rocket shot is touching an alien, and this is something we're going to check inside of our loop right here that we're repeating over and over. So every time you move, check if you're touching the barrier. Also now check if you're touching the alien. If you are touching the alien, delete yourself. So is that going to set up a race condition? And what I mean by that is we're going to check. Did we get points and the rocket disappear? We didn't. Right? That time the rocket was a super shot. That time it was a super shot. Still a super shot. Still a super shot. I don't know if it would always be a super shot, but that time it was always a super shot. So this check isn't happening. If the rocket shot is touching alien, right? It's never checking that. Let's have that never happen. What I mean by that is if we go back to the alien, here's where we're checking if the rocket shot's touching. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out. Now, my shot's still not deleting itself. So something is wrong with my code about a rocket shot. Let's take a look at this. When space key is pressed, repeat this. We're going to move this many times. We're going to check. Here's where it needs to go. Inside the repeat 30, right there is where it needs to go. And I had mine in the wrong place. I think I need to move this hide to the correct place again too now. So hold on again. I think hide goes. I know this is kind of getting confusing. So when that happens, you can just pull stuff out. When repeat 30 is over, that's when we hide. And then this goes inside of this. This goes inside this if block. Like this. So if you need to zoom in on this, or if you get stuck on this, take a close look at exactly what's going on here. Right? We definitely have an if block inside of another if block, and then a repeat block inside of that with a couple of if blocks inside there. Right? Separate things inside the repeat. Okay, so now let's test this out. Now, if I shoot an alien, my shot should go away. It's not a clone. That's what my problem is here. Okay, I just figured it out, folks. Sorry. These shots are not clones. So I can't just delete the clone. What I need to do is I need to tell it to hide. I need to tell it to hide and then go back to the rocket ship. So that's not touching any other aliens. Go back to rocket ship. There we go. So silly. So now when I shoot an alien, that shot just goes away, and it goes back. Well, that wasn't fair. And it goes back to the rocket ship. So that's pretty good. Now I can add back in the piece about giving points that was over here. And then now I can check my race condition that I'm still worried about. Do both things happen? Why did my project not reset? Did you see that? So I need to go to my rocket ship. I'm not resetting my costume here. See, I'm playing as a POW splat right now. So you catch things like that. So we're going to switch the costume at the beginning of the project for the rocket ship to rocket ship. All right, here we go. So now, you see, my shot is getting sent back, but it's not ever counting as touching. It's not ever counting as touching an alien now. I think I'm probably going to have to rethink what I'm doing here. My alien, if the clone is touching the rocket shot, then we do this stuff. We delete the clone of the alien. And you know what I think we're going to have to do? That instead of doing it this way, because this race condition is a problem, what we're going to do instead is we're going to do this with messages. So sorry about that, but you're seeing I'm setting up a race condition and it's causing something. It's causing something to not work the way that I want. So what we're going to do is if touching a rocket shot, we're still going to get 100 points. We're still going to change the alien to costume splat, wait a second, and delete the alien. But before we're done deleting this clone, we're also going to broadcast a message to a new message. I'm just going to call this one end the shot. All right, now we go back to the player shot, and we're going to say, when I receive end the shot, that's when we're going to hide the shot and then have it go back to the rocket ship. So now, whoopsie. So now when I shoot an alien, it's disappearing. I'm getting the points for it. It's splatting for a second. Hopefully you can see the little splat. Sometimes I'm getting lucky and getting 2 at a time, but it's not doing the super bullet thing anymore. Sometimes I'm getting really lucky and getting more than 1 at a time. But it's not doing the super bullet thing. I'm going to try to get more than 1 at a time on purpose by shooting in the middle. No. Anyway, so that I'm paused right when I lost. Okay, so now we have the game over part from losing lives, right? But there's another way we can lose lives. That's if the aliens are touching, right? So if the aliens are going to look for that in the code. If the aliens are touching the rocket ship, that's right here. We're setting the game over here also. This is another place then where I'm going to switch the backdrop to game over. So it's another way that we can lose, another time when we would get the game over backdrop. All right, so we've got a score. We've got lives. We're switching backdrops when we're showing the game is over. We're switching costumes when we're getting shot or when we're shooting aliens. And we're switching backdrops, right? Was there any other parts? Players can shoot and aliens can shoot each other. Variable to keep track of points, variable to keep track of lives. New costume for splatting aliens and for players, and to switch the backdrop. I think this is it. I think this is our game, our Space Invaders game. Now, there's one more thing going on here, though. And I'm just going to show you right now because I noticed it, and you might have already noticed it too. So you can play this game and say you're doing well. So everything's going good. And you're shooting up some aliens and everything else. And then once you get the last one, what's going on right now? You see what I'm saying? Like, the aliens are still moving around, I guess. And there's an original somewhere. And I guess the original is still just moving around all on its own. Here, I can show it to you. If I go to the aliens and I click show, there's the original. It's just stuck doing like the wrong thing. Who knows what it's doing? It's going to take a while, but what's going to happen when that original finally gets down to the bottom? Is it going to make my shields disappear? It's going to make other stuff happen. So this is going to have to be something else that we deal with somehow. So where we would say, and we can, it's another way that we can end the game, right? If we get 1,500 points, we can either then choose, are we going to start level 2, right? Which is then we would run this grid again to make all of our aliens show back again. We'd run this bit of the code, or I'm wondering if my berries are going to disappear right now. No, so it's just this is just part of a glitch of the game now. So basically, what was going to happen is, I'm going to. You could deal with this more than one different way. Like, say, if getting 1,500 points is when you go to level 2, you could trigger this part to happen again at that point to make another grid. Right, all this code right here makes another grid of aliens. Right. And I would set the costume before I did that. Set the costume to what you want. I should have added this piece. Set the costume to what you want, and then you get, another level of aliens. Or, right, what I think I'm going to do for this project is we're just going to check inside here. We've got, we already have a loop that's going the whole time the game is running. I'm just going to add one more piece to just check if the score is equal to 1,500. So if score is equal to 1,500 for this game, we're just going to say that's a game over. So if score is equal to 1,500, that means I shot all 15 aliens. Then we're going to say that we're going to set, that's another way the game can end. We're going to set is the game over to yes. And we can switch the backdrop. Now, if you want to create a separate backdrop that says you win or something like that, that might be nice instead of showing the same game over backdrop. But now, that was like a weird glitchy thing that was happening with my project. So I just want to show you, I shoot them all up really fast here. That's not happening anymore. So we're just going to finish this up right here. Right, and it's not just keep going on and on and on and on anymore. Now, in the original Space Invaders, so extensions, if you wanted to do more with this project, things that you could do in a part 4, we're not going to have time in the school year this year to do a part 4, but we absolutely could have elements for part 4. So elements for part 4 that I'd be thinking about would be having a separate backdrop for you win versus game over, right? Adding levels so that after you defeat the first wave of aliens, another wave of aliens comes, and maybe that next wave of aliens starts a little bit lower, right? Something like that. And speed, right? In the original Space Invaders games, the aliens actually get like mad, and they get faster and faster the more you shoot them. And that makes the game a lot more challenging too. So adding things like that to Space Invaders project would be a neat thing to do for a part 4, if you wanted to work on that over your summer break. Alrighty, folks. So once you have all of these pieces in your project, you're going to share your project. You're going to see how it says game over. I don't like to leave my projects that way. So just as a tip for you, what I do, I'm just going to show you what I do. I want to have a nice screen. I want it to look like this in my thumbnail. I don't want it to look like that. I don't want it to look like game over. So what I do, I basically cheated a little bit, but I get one of these blocks that says set my is the game over to yes. And then what I do is I start my project. I move to like where I want it to be to get a nice look for it or whatever else. And then I click on this thing one time. That's what I want the player to see in the thumbnail, something like this. So what I do is then I click save now here. And I don't do anything else. Now I'm done. I click see the project page. And now instead of the players getting the first thing they see being that weird game over screen, this is the thing that they're going to see in the preview window. Or, when they go to your profile page or when they see all these other things, that's how I can force this to look the way that I want in my project. See how it looks like this instead of just saying game over or something. That's just one more tip I wanted to share with you because I'm not going to see you guys much after there's only a couple weeks of class left. All right, so then you'll come back to Canvas. Make sure your project is a better title than Untitled. Make sure that it's shared, and then you're going to copy this address and turn that into Canvas, right? So in your student view, you're going to have a Start Assignment button, and then you would paste it right here. Everybody should better know how to do that by now, and then submit your assignment. Make sure that it says submitted right here. I'm going to put the link to that example right here so that you can check that out. Click See Inside and refer to it. There's a lot of stuff in there now by part 3. But I'm perfectly fine with you working along with this video and the example and building your own project that way. I'm not expecting you to rewrite this whole project yourself from scratch without any help, okay? From scratch, LOL. Okay, so that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you next time. Bye.